Hey guys, it's Danielle with Pure Root Wellness, and today's topic is going to be preservatives, additives, and artificial flavors. So let's get into it. So, what is a preservative? Well, a preservative can be a natural or a synthetic chemical that's added to food, really to deter any spoiling. There goes Tally Girl. That's why some products can stay fresh for so long. I know we're talking and focusing about food more so in this kind of PowerPoint, but preservatives can also be added to cosmetics, vaccines, medicines, etc. We're going to focus, like I said, and hone in really on just kind of the food aspect of the preservatives, additives, and flavorings. But just so you know, obviously, this isn't the only way that preservatives end up in our kind of daily existence. So, but again, the goal of the preservative itself is to deter any spoiling. That's why products can stay fresh for so long. The FDA is the regulatory body that determines if these products are safe for their intended use. They make sure that the compound or chemicals themselves are safe. And then they also look at kind of how much is, the limiting factor of what is, safe as far as dosage dependence goes. So what are some preservatives that we do see in our food? Well, sodium benzoate is typically found in soft drinks. It acts as an antimicrobial agent and a flavoring agent. And, back in like 2005, 2007, sodium benzoate kind of got, put under the microscope by the FDA themselves, really looking at what happens when the sodium benzoate either was combined with vitamin C, it was exposed to elevated temperatures, or light. What we actually saw was that the sodium benzoate, given those three factors right there, the vitamin C, the elevated temperature, or the light exposure, would kind of shift and transition the sodium benzoate into a cancer-causing chemical called benzene. This is actually known to be attack the bone marrow in human beings. So in 2005, 2007, the FDA looked at various soft drinks, big name soft drinks that contained, the vitamin C versus just the sodium benzoate. They did find that a majority of these beverages fell under kind of below, I should say, the maximum level of what the body could obtain from a benzene, component or chemical component. But there were some products that were above the upper limit that were asked, and some complied, some did not, for the product to actually be reformulated. Given that they saw, these factors were causing some, health ailments or health problems in regards to the potential for cancer causing. So just something, to keep in mind when you are drinking pop, and I'm talking real pop, even diet pop. A lot of the products were diet versions. Like I said, big names of Fanta, Sprite, Crush, Mountain Dew, Crystal Light, Sunkist Orange, soda waters, tonic waters. These were all kind of looked at under a microscope and, saw that there were some issues with the sodium benzoate converting into benzene themselves. So nitrates, we've heard a lot of these. You can see them on the package when you're buying a hot diggity dog or something. You can see that the nitrates, it says none added. That doesn't mean it's not in it. It just means they didn't add any more to it. But lunch meats, cured meats, it's actually found naturally in vegetables themselves. It's not so much the nitrites per se that are carcinogenic, but it's the way they're cooked. And the local environment, that's the important factor. Nitrates in processed meats are basically in close proximity to the amino acids. And when they're cooked at high temperatures, that's when you start to form a different compound, a cancer-causing compound called nitrosamines. And those nitrosamines are what kind of activate the body to go a little haywire and not chemically use the nitrates appropriately. So that's something you need to consider when you're consuming a lot of these lunch meats, cured meats. Given the option that they are still in natural veggies, I'd rather consume those than expose my body to all of these other kind of processed meats per se that I just know my body can't utilize very well from a metabolic standpoint. Sulfites, we've talked about, another preservative found in, wines. We've heard a lot of fish, pot, meats, eggs, cheese. We've seen a lot of issues with asthma symptoms, worsening migraines, just being cognizant that the sulfite itself is actually a preservative. Parabens, again, another product that we've heard a lot about. It can be naturally occurring, cancer causing, maybe, but dose dependent, absolutely. If you keep hammering your body with these chemicals, again, I'm saying ingestion, but also the lotions, the cosmetics, the products that we use that all have these parabens in them, you're constantly bombarding the body and asking the body to eliminate these toxins that are just overloading the system itself. And not only are you distracting the body from promoting healthier, like more health beneficial processes and metabolic processes, you're taking away from that basically, because you're putting all of this kind of garbage in or on the body, and it's not able to focus on the healthy repair and restorative aspect of your body. It's just focusing on all the garbage that it has to process through first to prevent you from developing diseases, or should I say syndromes and symptoms and things of all that nature. So just don't put it in your body. Start looking at the labels. Start eliminating even the littlest of things, to try and just clean out the system and give your body itself a better shot of using it for beneficial processes versus garbage processes. And then formaldehyde. Anyone who's worked in the medical community knows that formaldehyde, that specific smell in a cadaver lab, but truly formaldehyde is a gas. It's used in making building materials, household products, some cosmetics as well. When formaldehyde is dissolved in water, it's actually called formalin. This is what is used as an industrial disinfectant, a preservative in funeral homes and medical labs. It can be added as a preservative to food, but it also can be produced as a result of cooking and smoking food itself as well. Formaldehyde does occur naturally in the environment, and humans and most other living organisms do make a small amount as part of like that normal metabolic process, but not to the extent of, like I said, when you start to smoke and cook certain mostly kind of meat products, you're turning it into a less obvious natural product than something that your body kind of processed through internally in regards to a natural component. Formaldehyde is also what's found in tobacco smoke. Both people who smoke and those of secondhand smoke are exposed to higher levels of formaldehyde. And one study actually found that the formaldehyde was actually bound to the DNA in the white blood cells of people who smoked than obviously who's that didn't smoke, and it put them at higher risk for specific leukemia. So you're not only looking at the concern of lung cancer from smoking and the formaldehyde causing the damage there, but also from blood cancer risk as well. So I'm a visual learner. Just top foods to watch out for that commonly contain chemical preservatives. I know all of these foods look absolutely delicious. I'm guilty of some of them. I'm not even gonna lie, consuming them. But again, it's one of those where I sit here and I go, okay, if I want some chocolate this week, I can't have the cookies and I can't have the salad dressings that have all of these extra preservatives in it. And, I don't eat meats, but, you've got to pick and choose here. What you need. Can I have popcorn? Well, sure. Maybe I'll just do it with coconut oil and then throw some seeds in a bucket and watch it pop away. These are all things that you need to start bargaining with yourself to sit here and go, listen, I'm going to grill out with friends and I know we're going to smoke some meats and do this and whatever. That week, there's no soda that week and there's no processed baked goods and chips and crackers. And instead of cereal for breakfast, I'm going to eat, something else a little more wholesome. That's all I'm saying is you need to start looking at the whole picture of it and saying, okay, I know this is most likely what's going to happen over the weekend. I need to start cutting back and being cognizant of what I'm ingesting throughout the week so I can enjoy something that I know will have these extra additive preservatives in there. So what is an additive? The function of an additive is to maintain and improve the freshness of food, again, to improve or maintain the nutritional value. What's interesting is, though, because some vitamins, minerals, fibers are actually lost during the process of making these foods, this is where I get confused. It's like we process the food, we remove the natural vitamins, minerals, fibers, and then replace it with synthetic ones. And this is why I have in quotations like the hand over the head emoji. I just feel like this is counterintuitive. It just doesn't make sense, right? Like, why would we strip the food of its natural kind of goodness and then process it and then just put synthetic stuff back in it? I know the synthetic stuff probably will make it taste a lot better, but it just doesn't seem to make sense for me in that essence. The additives, they improve the taste, the texture, and appearance. That's why we do that. But for what cost internally in our bodies, at what cost? The spices, the natural and the artificial flavors and sweeteners are added to enhance the taste. The emulsifiers, the stabilizers, and the thickeners give that food that texture and consistency that we consumers expect. So, talking a little bit about what is maybe a direct food additive versus an indirect food additive. The direct food additives are those that are added to food for a specific purpose for that food. That would kind of be like the emulsifiers, the stabilizers, the thickeners, right? The xanthan gum, for example, it's used in salad dressings, chocolate milk, bakery fillings, puddings, things that give it that texture, that kind of thickened texture. That is a direct additive. Most direct additives are identified on the ingredient label of the food. Now, indirect additives are those that become part of the food when there's trace amounts that are added just due to packaging, storage, handling. For instance, a minute amount of packaging substances may actually find their way in the food during the storage or processing, process, I should say. The food packaging manufacturers must prove to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration that all the materials that come in contact with the food are safe before they're permitted for use in such a manner. Well, this kind of makes you think, though, because of the inherent limitations of science itself, the FDA cannot absolutely be certain that there isn't a risk of these substances that you're ingesting. They base this on basically the best evidence that's available with reasonable certainty that there's no harm for consumers. They just can't guarantee that. So knowing that the packaging that comes in with a lot of these foods, trace amounts could be found in the food themselves, leaching into, or actual particles themselves. It just kind of sits kind of odd thinking about that, that the plastic that you just took off of that, packaged food, you could be eating parts of the plastic. And I doubt your body really wants to use that or could use that, I should say, as something beneficial. Some examples of additives are like the ascorbic acid. We talked about the vitamin C, citric acid, food colorings, MSG, high fructose corn syrup, aspartame, anything butylated. Basically, I know MSG, that's always been kind of a hot topic. The monosodium glutamate is a flavor enhancer. This is why, and I'm not going to pick on Chinese food because it's one of my favorite food entities to eat, but that's why Chinese food just tastes so absolutely amazing, but you leave there kind of feeling heavy and digestively not feeling 100%. Some people say that, it leaves them with headaches, their asthma exacerbates, they get palpitations. The MSG itself has been kind of under the looking glass for a while in regards to what it does to the body and is it harmful, is it not? So monosodium glutamate is actually made up of water, sodium, and glutamate. Glutamate is an amino acid that we use in our bodies to make proteins in food and in our body itself. MSG doesn't really have a flavor of its own. It is used basically to enhance the natural flavor of foods such as meats, poultry, soups, snacks, vegetable dishes even. But MSG is really, in a nutshell, just it's produced by fermenting starch, sugar beets, cane sugar, molasses. It's the fermentation process by which yeast and bacteria convert the carbs into alcohol. This is actually the same process that we make for yogurt and other like healthy fermented foods. So, it's kind of hard to say, okay, the MSG is causing a lot of, like I said, the headaches, the palpitations, the asthma exacerbations, things of that nature. There's never really been any solid evidence to direct immediate or long-term health complications correlated with MSG. But with that being said, I think, again, we need to step back and be cognizant. Trips to the hibachi grill every single week, probably not great for the sodium aspect of it and just the food additive aspect of it. And I'm not even bashing, like I said, just on like the Chinese and hibachi and whatnot. It's in other processed foods too, right? The microwavable stuff and the stuff that was already processed that we can actually buy from the grocery store. So, soy sauces and things like that. Reading the labels, looking at them, and seeing is the monosodium glutamate in there, and just kind of teeing back on what you're ingesting, I think is really the take home. And then high fructose corn syrup. It's just a sweetener that's added to products. It's literally table sugar, but in syrup form. Honestly, I just want to stop here because there's no question whether it's good for you or not good for you. It's high fructose corn syrup. It goes straight to your liver. It starts a fat production factory. It triggers production of triglycerides and cholesterol. And this is all coming from, I listen to Dr. Hyman, his podcast quite a bit, and he delves a lot into high fructose corn syrup. And just the lack of benefit of, you don't need it, get rid of it, it's junk, it's garbage. Again, it goes into the garbage bin in your body, and literally it does nothing beneficial except distract your body from promoting those healthier processes that need to happen. And actually, they're finding that high fructose corn syrup actually has an effect on depleting your vitamin D levels. And we're starting to learn, obviously with COVID being so crazy, other ways your body, what was common factors for individuals who did get very sick getting COVID. Vitamin D depletion was kind of a factor that they looked at in there, and high fructose corn syrup actually will deplete your vitamin D storage. So just something to kind of be cognizant about again and think about. Not going to go over this big table step by step, but I just thought it was interesting. They talk about each chemical, what the food related use is, and then the selected health concerns. What really bothered me was just looking at a lot of the effects of children in developmental years. You're looking at nervous system problems and decreased fertility and affecting genital developments, and looking at kids' behavioral and attention effects on some of these chemicals that are used. Again, just looking at your labels, looking at things that would be detrimental to a child's health. Me as a parent, I know I make my own choices as an adult, but I'm choosing, my child can't process kind of, what he's ingesting and what's good, what's bad. I have to be that human that does that for him right now. And the fact that I would cognitively give him something that had junk in it and then know that it could have an effect on his growth and development, I just think that's pretty harsh. I think that's a huge take home. And then I sit there and I go, well, why would I give my son something that I shouldn't be eating myself? So, just something to kind of be aware of, and knowing that as parents to children who are still developing, we're actually allowing them or giving them things that could be detrimental to their health. I think that's pretty eye-opening. So artificial flavors, the term artificial flavor is any substance, basically the function of which is to impart flavor. This is not derived, get ready, this is not derived from a spice, fruit, fruit juice, vegetable juice, edible yeast, herb, bark, bud, root, leaf, or plant material, meat, fish, poultry, eggs, dairy product, or fermentation products thereof. straight out of the FDA horse's mouth, this does not come from anything natural. This is all created from a chemical source. The chemicals are made and put into the food, and then we eat the food. So again, it's one of those where you sit here and you go, this was chemically made. I'm just going to ingest it. I'm not 100% sure what it's going to do to my body, but I'll take it. It just doesn't make sense, I guess, a little bit. So why would we use these artificial flavors? That's the question, I guess. Artificial flavors can be created at a lower cost, no shock there, with greater purity and flavor consistency from the artificial source than from the natural source. Well, that makes sense, right? I mean, the natural flavors are derived from a natural source. So the crop quality can vary, the product can vary due to location, harvesting, other factors that are out of human control, out of basically the human control, can impact the availability and quality of naturally sourced ingredients. So I can understand from a business and financial standpoint that the artificial flavors give you exactly what you want, the same flavor every single time, so that consumer tastes exactly what the other consumer tastes. But again, at what expense to your body? It just, to me, it's not worth it. I would rather, yes, do I enjoy good tasting food? You bet. But not, again, like I said, at the expense of my health, where I sit here and go, oh, even if it's not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, not next year, years down the road, even, whatever it may be, if I sat here and said I did absolutely everything I could to rid my body of the garbage that couldn't be used and let my body focus on things that could be used to help with healing and the metabolic process, it's, again, just a no-brainer for me. So the take home, foods to avoid: soft drinks. Get rid of the pop, soda, sugary water, sports drinks, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. It's all garbage. Again, your body throws it in the garbage bin and sits there and goes, okay, now I've got to spend time ridding my body of this. I can't focus on the healthy processes, metabolic processes that you want me to. I've got to clean this up first. And if they can't clean it up, then your body's left with products that basically make cells non-functional. Just the pop has to go, period. If you're a 2 liter a day, everyday drinker, you need to start figuring out ways to wean. It's just kind of a non-negotiable aspect. I like to try and meet people where they are in regards to like their health and their life choices. But the reality is, if you know something isn't good for you and you just keep drinking it otherwise, that's kind of on you. I can't want it more than you want it. So it's one of those things where if you're not willing to at least start cutting back on all the sugary drinks and pops and sodas and all those things, then you're kind of left with some of the health ailments that may be hurting you from the clip. It's just kind of that easy. It's pretty black and white. There's no gray area to kind of talk about that. But cured meats on the grill sucks, I know. Again, if you know you're going for a big old barbecue on the weekend and they're going to be smoking things and doing all the, doing all the things in regards to the grill, know that week then you need to take it upon yourself to sit there and go, okay, I choose not to put things on the grill today. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Maybe if you do something, vegetables versus, the cured meats and stuff like that. Again, just being aware of how much you're consuming, I think is a big aspect of that. MSG, unfortunately, we can't go to get hibachi every day. That hurts my heart and soul to say that. But again, and looking at other MSG products in your soy sauces and your other sauces and your processed foods, what can you give a little to get a lot more? I think that's important. And then high fructose corn syrup. I'm not even going to spend more time on it. It's sugar. It's just sugar. It's in simple form. Get rid of it. All of the red 49s and yellow 5s and blue 2s and all the weird lake colors, just for God's sakes. Like, what is it? We don't know. You don't need it. Again, your body doesn't know how to process these chemicals. These are fake. They're made in a lab. They're just there to make the food either look or taste better or preserve the function of it. It offers no benefit except distraction for your body. So again, something to look at the labels and just be like, no, I got to find something else. I got to find an alternative. There are alternatives out there, I promise. It's just going to take a little bit. And then once you find them, you're kind of like, oh, okay, I know that I like this, and this is going to be beneficial for me. So general rule, this is kind of what I always tell people. If you can't pronounce the name, or the name looks like someone literally took their hands, smashed them along a keyboard, and that was like the word that came out with smashing the keyboard, your body won't know what the hell to do with it. You just won't use it for any good in your system. It's wasted time, energy, and resources to figure out, what you just put in your body. So, keep that in your mind, that if you can't pronounce it, and if I can't pronounce it, and you know what I mean? If you Google it and it's like, oh, this is, found in chemicals that are developed in the lab and stuff, like, why would we be eating it? Again, I know you're going to tell me it's probably tastes great. I get it. But it won't taste as great as your health and not being ill and not dealing with, a lot of the complexity of health illnesses that are showing up. And just before I hit kind of my reference page, what I found interesting when reading through all these government-funded research articles, websites, they repeatedly said several times how all of these chemicals, products, are found naturally in the environment. But then I think to myself, I'm like, well, where do we naturally find like pop? Like, does pop just kind of like hang out on trees? Does pop like it's like an oxymoron for me. Like, what they're saying doesn't make sense. Okay, it's natural, but we had to chemically put it together. I don't know. I feel like you need to think for yourself a little bit and think about truly where a lot of these products and foods are coming from, and from there, it'll be a no-brainer. I know it's hard, and I know, like I said, you get these cravings. I mean, you're preaching to a choir when it comes to, my chocolates and kind of my sweets and things of that nature. And I like a good salty hibachi and all these things. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm right there with you. I just think sometimes you do have to step back and sit here and go, does my body really need this? And if I ingest it, what am I taking away from my other processes that my body could be focusing on instead, and healing and recovering and basically enjoying a healthy, body itself. So just something to think about. Here are my references, and that's that for this podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you're all doing well, and join me again for another podcast here soon. Thanks. Be well.